Thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms. On today's show, Brian Cashman tells everyone what we already knew about the trade with the Twins. Kyle Higashioka is modeling his swing after a new teammate's swing, and it's already helping. Gleyber Torres plans on being an aggressive hitter in 2022, and MLB announces Home Run Derby X. We'll try to tell you what that is next, all on Locked On Yankees.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, Yankee fans. Welcome to Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias, and I'm joined by my co-host, Abby Mastracco. You can find us on Twitter at Locked On Yankees, all one word. We're also at Instagram at Locked On Yankees, all one word. We make it very easy for you. You can listen to us on every podcasting platform available, including Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can watch and subscribe to us on YouTube. We are inching closer and closer to 1,000. We just passed 950 this morning. And when we hit 1K, we're having a giveaway. And one final thing, when you get into your car, you can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Yankees. So, Abby, how you doing today?
I'm tired. I have no reason to be. I just am. I've finally been able to watch some spring training though. So there's that.
Yeah.
Now that the trade deadline has passed and I'm sort of lifted from my fog. I'm tired. I have no reason to be.
Speaking of spring training, everyone, Manny Banuelos is starting tonight's game. He won't pitch more than 2 or 3 innings, maybe, but it's like we're in a time machine and we're back in the late 2000s, early 2010s with
how many comebacks is this for him?
It's a lot.
He tried with the Angels a few years ago. There was another team.
Was it the Braves? Maybe. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, it's a lot, and I mean, good for him. He's still young, like relatively speaking. It's not like he's 38 and trying to make a comeback. I think he's only 31 because he was really young when he first came up with the Yankees. So
he was, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that whole, when I saw that they were bringing him back, I thought to myself, interesting. Okay. Because tonight's game is a 6:35 start and it's on Yes, as far as I know. So you guys can watch Manny Banuelos pitch.
Yeah. The Yankees signed him in 2008. And then he was traded in the Chase and Shreve David Carpenter trade to the Braves.
Right.
Signed another contract with the Braves. White Sox, Dodgers.
Wow.
I guess it wasn't the Angels. It was the Dodgers I was thinking of.
Yeah. That's a long...
He's tried to make a couple comebacks.
Yeah, that's a long journey for him. I mean, good for him. Keep trying. Try and stay healthy, which, when you're with the Yankees, that's all.
Oh, no, there was. Angels minor league. I knew it. I was right. Because I remember I had to write about it in 2016.
Yeah. Because we were thinking about when he was signed again by the Yankees, when he was doing this comeback, my friends and I in our Slack, when we used to be on a message board together and we were talking about the killer bees, Andrew Brackman, Dellin Betances, and Manny Banuelos, and just thinking about the hope of those 3 when he first started. And that's just how baseball is. You never really know how things are going to work out for certain people.
He was with the Mariners too. Yeah. He was supposed to be this generational talent. So it's unfortunate. I mean, you hate to see that. You hate to see somebody. It really does something to you when you have so much hype around you. Like you believe that you're really great too, but it is a lot to live up to. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And when you don't live up to it, it's difficult for them to sort of reconcile this player that they are not with the player that they thought that they would be, that they already thought that they were. Right. It's kind of a weird mental game to let go. And, you still believe look, I've got this one great pitcher. I've got this raw talent. I've had injuries and I just need one chance. And sometimes one chance is all it takes. But, realistically, the odds, these guys who keep signing minor league deals, the odds are slim for them, but you always root for them because they're good stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I always think of the hype around Phil Hughes when he first came up, and that was Jason
Yeah.
Giambi's fault for comparing him to Roger Clemens, of all people. Don't do that. Don't ever do that to a young player. That's just way too much pressure.
It happens though. Like you ask like scouts for comps,
Yeah.
and they'll say like, he's got a swing similar to Jeter or something like that, and then people hear that and they run with it. Like, it gets retweeted 1,000 times, and it's like, well, that's not. He wasn't comparing the kid to Jeter. He didn't say he's the next Jeter. He just said his swing looks the same.
Yeah.
But people will take it and they'll run with it, and then it becomes like sort of an unfair comparison, and just all this hype that is difficult to handle sometimes. And stay off Twitter.
Yeah.
If you're a prospect, stay off Twitter. Don't look at what people are saying about you. People are mean.
Yeah, and if you are on Twitter and you're a prospect, go through all your tweets, do searches with certain words, and if you made a tweet with a bad word, delete it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point too. 100%. Yeah, if you tweeted some real dumb stuff in high school, go back and like filter that. I'm so glad I didn't have Twitter in high school or even college for that matter, because like we've talked about, I think last week, millennials and Gen Xers were like absolutely unhinged on Facebook.
Yeah.
So,
It's like,
I can only imagine some of the stupid things, probably not offensive necessarily, but like,
right.
Nobody needs to hear about the burrito that I ate in San Diego every weekend.
Yeah. So speaking of things, Brian Cashman basically let everyone know what we all assumed about the Josh Donaldson, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Gary Sanchez, Gio Urshela exchange, that their thinking was they'd rather have a number of players fit in a spot where one would be paid. So instead of paying for Correa, they got two. But it's just the fact that Correa went to the Twins because of what the Yankees did. That's the whole thing that bothers Yankee fans. If he had re-signed back with Houston, no one would care. They'd be like, all right, well, he just wanted to stay home. But the fact that the Yankees helped take money off the Twins' hands, here you go. Here's Carlos Correa. There, thank you. You're welcome.
And the other thing that I saw, just sort of like briefly, looking at some reactions on Twitter, these are not the Yankees of old that just go grab every big star when they become available. Like they're doing things a little bit more with a purpose and with a little bit more intent than just throwing a bunch of money and a six-year contract at the best player, the best free agent who becomes available. They're looking ahead in the future, developing more talent, and they want some roster and some payroll flexibility. And it's not a popular decision by some fans who think like these are the Yankees. They're supposed to just go grab all of the best players. And that's just, I think this just sort of drives home. These are not the same Yankees of the 90s and the early 2000s. They're making decisions in a much different way. They're using a lot of analytics, and they are developing more talent than I think they were before. They would just trade for everybody. They would trade and they'd sign all the best free agents, and that's how they put their team together. And then they had a lot of success with the baby bombers, and it's it's just a different era in Yankees baseball, and some fans don't like this era.
Yeah, and I think it's also the same, the fact that they're kind of hamstrung with certain contracts that some people were questioning, or extensions that they made that people were questioning, like Luis Severino, Aaron Hicks. A lot of people were even discussing in recent days maybe they should get Stanton off the books. And
I've seen a lot of people debate the Stanton contract because it was it was a favor for Jeter, or at least that's the narrative.
Right. Yeah.
It could come out that like that's not what happened, and fans would still never let it go.
No.
And so I can't tell whether Stanton's like been a popular player with Yankees fans, like because of that, or like whether I don't know where he like stands among Yankee fans. Sometimes they absolutely love him. They they go nuts for the guy when he's at bat at the stadium. And then I see stuff on Twitter where people are like, we never wanted you anyway. Like, I can't get a read on how Yankee fans feel about Giancarlo Stanton.
It's similar to A-Rod, where when he's doing really well, they love him. And when he strikes out, it's like the worst thing in the world. Why did we get him? They pay too much money for him. This is ridiculous. And I mean,
Yeah,
after
I
what
could
he
see
did
that.
last season for the Yankees in those last 3 months, people should just shut up about Giancarlo Stanton. And,
Well,
you
I
know,
mean, I do as a reporter like to gauge how the fans are feeling. One, because it does help us develop content.
yeah,
We try and give the fans things that they would be interested in reading and learning about. Some of their favorite players is a big part of my job, and we are sort of the go-between between the organization, and that includes the general managers and the coaches and the players, the go-between the organization and the fans. So I like to try and keep track of what fans of a lot of teams. I mean, I'll go through Twitter and search if I'm working on a story about, I don't know, somebody on the Rockies. That's a bad example. The only thing I'll be writing about the Rockies this year is like not really great things, but like the Chicago Cubs, I'll go through and I'll look at some fan blogs and some comments, and I'll look through Twitter and to see what Cubs fans are what's sort of trending with that fan base. And it always cracks me up that it's like such a variety of opinions around Giancarlo Stanton. There's never one like uniform, yes, we love this guy and like he's our favorite player, or like we all hate him. Like there's just so many mixed reactions on him, and they always bring up the contract and Jeter and the Marlins. And it's just I don't know. I think that narrative is just never gonna die.
no,
And
it probably
it
won't.
is a big contract to have on the books. And when that trade was made, people did wonder how it would affect the Yankees 5 years down the line. And now we're seeing it.
Yeah,
He's having a good impact on the lineup, which we knew he would, but that payroll is or that contract is a little bit of an albatross.
yeah,
But every team has those, like there are some GMs in some sports. I just talked to one a few weeks ago who there are some GMs who are not handing out long contracts anymore because they think that it's just going to prevent the team from it's going to create a cycle of sustained success for maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then it's going to make it difficult to sustain that success for longer than a couple years. They're
yeah,
going to have a steep drop off because they've got all these long-term big money deals on the books with aging players. And that's sort of how, pro sports contracts work. You pay for the decline.
yeah,
You do. And I was talking to an NHL GM who was like, I don't like doing more than 4-year deals. I just don't. And I do understand that sentiment, but that's not what players and agents want. And so if you draw a hard line on that stance, you might be limited in the talent pool that
right.
you can get in terms of, you know, trade and signs and free agent signings and things like that. So it's the Yankees are dealing with some big money contracts that, like it or not, are on the books. They do have to prioritize an Aaron Judge extension.
Yes,
So that precludes them from going out and getting the best shortstop on the market, despite the fact that they are the New York Yankees. And a decade ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that's what they would have done. They would have just gone and grabbed the best player and signed him to a big deal. But these are not the Yankees of the dynasty days. Baseball is different now. Decisions are made in a different way. The game has changed, and the way that GMs operate has changed as well.
yeah. It's just it's interesting to see how things are changing contract wise. I mean, Correa's contract has 2 opt-outs, I believe, right after year 1 and year 2 if he
He's
wants to
got
leave the
yeah,
Twins, and and
yeah.
that's happening also with contracts where guys have the opt-out option sooner than later, and I think we'll see a change in how guys are signed in the coming years, which, baseball's changing in all different ways, but it'll be interesting to see how that works.
Well, this was a trend that we saw starting in the NBA when, when the super teams were created, guys wanted to go play with their buddies. And
Right.
they've done a lot of the players' associations in the 4 major North American sports have done some surveys and studies on what would improve your overall health and well-being and happiness. And the biggest answer that comes up is more more control over your career and where you go play. Because we saw this recently with Freddie Freeman. His wife wanted to stay in Florida. because or a team that has their headquarters or their training facilities in Florida because that's where she's from. So he wanted to stay in an East Coast city for her family, and he went to a West Coast city because his family's there. So like having you free agency is sort of seen as like that's when you finally earn the right to exercise some control over your career. But
Sure.
what guys are saying now is we want that right from from the time that we start our careers because it's just this is our career, not yours.
Right.
Like it or not, this is my career. And sure, there are some extenuating circumstances and factors beyond their control. Getting drafted means you don't really have much of a choice over where you're going to go play sometimes. But these like shorter term deals with opt outs are becoming a little bit more popular in a lot of sports because they just want people want to be able to test the market earlier. They want to be able to exercise a certain amount of control over their career, their family situation, where they put down roots with their kids. It's started in basketball, it's made its way into hockey and baseball, and I'm not going to speak about football because I haven't really worked in the NFL at a close enough level other than cutting highlights for TV. So I don't want to speak about contracts in that, but I know in those three major sports, this is becoming sort of a trend.
Yeah. So coming up, we're going to talk about Kyle Higashioka because he's kind of worked on his swing thanks to the help of a new teammate. And it's kind of not shocking who it is, but it's interesting to see who it is. But first, our next partner has a product that I use literally every day when I wake up. I started taking AG1 because I wanted better gut health, more energy, a better immune system. Plus, I don't like taking pills and vitamins. It's just not for me. And I wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I've been on it for a month. I love it. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It's kind of mild, so it's not too bad. And I actually look forward to it every morning. With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing, I cannot say that word, 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. And this special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things that I need. I take it first thing in the morning when I wake up before I have my breakfast and my coffee. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially heading into or coming out of flu and cold season. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. Again, no pills, no supplements. You don't have to swallow anything that's too big for you. So to make it easy, AG1 is going to give you a free 1 year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you need to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen every day. You should listen to Locked On MLB Prospects when you're done with us. Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow, including some names we may see on the field in Yankee Stadium in the not-so-distant future. I watched Anthony Volpe work a walk yesterday and score. That was nice. And Locked On MLB Prospects is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Kyle Higashioka. He said that, I think it was really funny. He was talking about how he was modeling his swing after Josh Donaldson's. And he also purposely said, I couldn't talk to him last season for obvious reasons. And we all know that the obvious reason is Kyle Higashioka is Garrett Cole's personal catcher. And there was that whole kerfuffle between Cole and Donaldson. But of course, now that Donaldson's his teammate, he can work closely with him to work on his swing. And so far, it's working well. He has 4 home runs in spring training. Not that spring training means anything, but he's hitting home runs on curveballs, which he doesn't really normally do. So, hey, we were talking about Josh Donaldson and what impact he could have on the team. And if he can help Kyle Higashioka improve at the plate, I'm all for it.
Yeah, he said he got rid of the big leg kick, which, I've talked to a lot of catchers who maybe are not the best hitting catchers who have also said that like eliminating the leg lift helped them. just sort of refine the mechanics. And uh, look, teammates help each other like that all the time. You get in the cages with guys, and you get some pointers. And the Yankees, Gary Sanchez is out of that lineup. Higashioka is sort of the guy, and now Ben Burp he was hurt a couple weeks ago. Do we have an update on him? I haven't.
I think they said he was throwing from a
Okay.
certain a number of feet, and that because it was his oblique, right? So he's
My
slowly
job as a
making his.
reporter to know, but there's just a lot of things going on
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, and the Yankees traded for him and knew that he had the injury. They didn't think it was that bad, so they figured he'd
Yeah,
be okay eventually. And yeah, Kyle Higashioka is going to be the man until
he's the guy.
yeah, it's all on him. It's his time to shine, and who knows, maybe with more playing time he will. More
Yeah,
consistent at bats will help,
they're
right?
gonna need some more production out of that spot in the lineup.
Yeah,
You can't just plug somebody in, elevate him to that kind of like promotion of using him more than once every 5 days, and expect and do that thinking like, okay, fine, we're just going to take the L in that part of the order. You
right.
don't do that. Like, the Yankees need him to produce, and I think that they are probably confident that he can. They just need. I think you're right. With more at bats, we can see a little bit more of what he is at the plate, what he is capable of, on a more consistent basis. And so far, he's off to a good start. He
Yeah,
seems to understand that simplifying his swing is a good thing for him, and you know he, he's got to not tinker with it too much. That's when you start to get in trouble, when you
yeah,
start switching things daily,
right.
weekly.
Yeah,
So if he can sort of stick with this approach for a long period of time, and I read that he wanted to stick with it through the entire season. If he can stick with it for at least a few months, we'll get a better idea of what he's capable of at the plate with more regular at bats.
yeah. Tonight's lineup is Donaldson, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, LeMahieu, Gallo, Hicks, Torres, Higashioka. So that could be the opening day lineup. Maybe not in that exact order, but it feels like that could be it. And Stanton's DHing, Judge right, Gallo left, Hicks center. So yeah, that could be the lineup that we see a week from tomorrow against the Red Sox. It's almost here. I can't believe it.
Crazy.
I mean,
We had
after all those
nothing,
months of lockout, and then here we
and
are.
then everything just feels like it's been moving at like warp speed,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
which is great. Let's capitalize on the momentum. Everyone's excited about baseball again.
yeah, Higashioka could be driven in by Donaldson tonight because he's batting ninth and
Yeah.
Donaldson's batting first. So, or first, lead off. Hello. That's the right terminology. And I know that. So don't leave any nasty comments about that. So, anyway,
People being nasty on the internet?
that's shocking. That never happens.
I mean, just don't Google the name Will Smith right now.
Oh, ooh. Yeah, that.
Shouting into a void. A lot of people.
Oh, my goodness. There was one thing about Higashioka that from this article that we were reading up on before the show. All right. So in 100, no, it's 67 games, 167 games, that would be a record. He hit 181. His slugging percentage was only 389, but he hit 10 home runs. And his X slugging was 504, which is a difference of 115 points. And that was the third largest gap among all players with at least 100 batted balls. So there's some sort of thing happening there where he was a little unlucky with some of the balls that he hit. And again, as we said, it's like this with every player. You have more at bats, you're gonna probably do a little better than you would where you're playing not so many games, because that can't be that easy for a player to have to sit out 3 games, then suddenly bat, and then sit out 2 games, bat. And it's also the same thing with guys who aren't used to being DHs and are better when they're playing the field and then having to bat because they're doing something constantly in the game instead of sitting on the bench. I know that
Yeah.
Stanton says that he goes in the back and he does stuff when he's DH, so he's not so he's still warm and he's not just sitting there. But that's something for you guys to look out for with Kyle Higashioka, to see if more bats will bring more hitting for him. Let's hope so. That'd be great. It'd be great for all those guys. It'd be great to see DJ LeMahieu come back, and hopefully he's 100% healthy, because he definitely wasn't last season. And, that'll probably help him a bunch. You'll see Stanton playing the field and DHing. They have options there. And I joked last season, or before last season, I joked on the show. I said, if you see Stanton playing in the field later in the season, something is definitely wrong with the team. But that wasn't really the case. It was just they figured that he was hitting better when he was playing in the field. And, he's not going to be out there all the time, but they have those options. And, him and my boy Gallo give them options. So, and speaking of, let's talk about this quickly. Gallo has another video out.
Ooh.
He was mic'd up again during the game against Baltimore the other night, in which he made that diving play. And he actually joked. He's like, is this still working? Did I knock it out? Because he landed on his chest. But he's hilarious. And most of the comments from people who watched the video were, he's really funny. He should be mic'd up all season. And holy cow, he's huge.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
But it's funny because when he came over, he said, no, I don't like it. I used to be the big guy in the team, and now I have to deal with Stanton and Judge, who are bigger than me.
It's a big, tall outfield.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man.
It's the big boy outfield. I love it.
It really is.
Yeah. In that first video, him and Judge were joking about how they're both afraid to play center field, which I think is really funny. You'll see Judge in center field.
Tough. You really do have to be rangy. And Judge, we know as a big guy, he can make some diving plays, but he's not rangy. He's not as rangy as is required to be in that position. And Gallo, I think Gallo probably could. I mean, he tracks the ball really well.
He does.
And he's got a very accurate arm.
Yes.
I don't know that it's necessarily he'd be your first option in center field, but if that's the way the dominoes fall, I think you could put him there. I think you could probably put him there.
Yeah.
But I don't blame him for being scared to play there.
Yeah, especially center field at Yankee Stadium. Even the new stadium. The old stadium was, everyone always talked about how left field was, no one wanted to play left field in Yankee Stadium. There was a game where the Red Sox made Kevin Youkilis play left field, and it was a disaster. I was there for that game, and it was really bad. And he just kept losing the ball in the crowd, and it was notoriously bad there. It's a little better at the new stadium, but even just the position of the stadium, it's the same as the old stadium, and with the sky, and if there are no clouds, and it's hell for outfielders to play certain positions that they're not used to, or in Youkilis's place or case, what were they thinking? I know it was July or August, so it wasn't it wasn't an important game, but I felt bad for him. That was really mean of Terry Francona to do to him. I don't know why they did it. I can't remember who got hurt and who was playing that year, but
I'm assuming there was injuries or something.
Yeah, it was bad. So in a moment, we're going to talk about Gleyber Torres, because the new daddy is, I said that so strangely, the new father.
Oh, man.
Wants to be aggressive. And so far he is. He actually was aggressive this weekend. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's time to talk about Built Bar Puffs. The first protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in really good flavors: churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie, and every other Built Bar is covered in 100% chocolate as well. They're high protein, low calorie, and you can replace your candy bars with them because they taste that good. Flavors: mint brownie, coconut almond, double chocolate, raspberry. Sometimes there's a German chocolate that's really good, cookies and cream. And they come out with new flavors all the time. And if they think a flavor might be good, they'll make it, and they'll figure out a way to make it healthy for you. So go to Built.com, use our promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Again, that's LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. So the one thing I will say about Gleyber Torres is he is posting the most adorable videos of himself and his son. And it is just, it's just so cute to see. And actually in Joey Gallo's video, he called him Papa, which I thought was very sweet. And then he Gallo told Judge that he was next. So we'll see.
Okay.
we'll see if that happens. So Gleyber Torres wants to be aggressive or more aggressive in 2022. And he actually led off the game the other day with a first pitch home run that went 415 feet, which is nice to see. You know, Gleyber's not a big dude. So to see someone, I mean, compared to the big boy outfield that we were just talking about, to see him do that and to see him look better and more balanced at the plate. Because watching him last season when he was really struggling, he just didn't look right at the plate. I'm going to demonstrate it on YouTube. If you're listening, I apologize. But he kept falling over when he was swinging. He just did not look comfortable at the plate. And as we've spoken about on the show, it was really a carryover of him struggling to play shortstop, and it was affecting him at the plate. And then once they moved him to second base, he was starting to look better. And I think he realized that. He's like, wow, I'm comfortable defensively, and now I could be comfortable offensively. And he did some work in the offseason, and it seems to be paying off.
You know, late in the season last year, he did say he wanted to have a more aggressive approach. And he did have he had a good last like few weeks, maybe even last month. I should look on Baseball Reference to see what he hit in the month of September. But yeah, they kind of converged in Tampa with he kind of converged in Tampa with the new hitting staff. They went over, the analytics, the underlying numbers that he has, and tried to figure out a plan of action for him. And he said he knew the pitcher pretty well in Lakeland.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to be more aggressive with pitcher when he knows these pitchers very well. I mean, he has a good understanding of what they're going to throw. And this is something that comes with experience in the major leagues. You know, you can read the scouting reports and all of that, and you're going to go over scouting reports before games. But you know, sometimes it's just having a feel and having seen this guy so many times. You're like, yeah, I know what he's going to throw. It's just, and you know how he throws, how he pitches to you specifically. So it's something that comes with some experience, and Gleyber's young and struggled, which means that he's, on the bench, he's getting up, down. It's just, it's going to be a big year for him. He's got a lot to prove.
Yeah.
But I think everybody understands that the talent is still there, and they're waiting to tap into his full potential. He's a young work in progress, and having an aggressive approach is hopefully going to serve him well. We'll find out.
Yeah. Gleyber is a big key to the lineup. LeMahieu is a big key to the lineup. I feel like they're going to get a number of home runs from Gallo. I think Gallo is the type of, he's going to strike out a lot. He does. That's just what he does.
Hitter.
Yes.
He's sort of like the definition of a modern day, like 3 true outcomes hitter.
Yeah. But I feel like if Gleyber and DJ LeMahieu, they don't have to go back to the way they were in 2019. But if they're anywhere close to what they were in 2019 and, LeMahieu in 2020, that lineup is so much better than it was last season with most of the same guys. And I really would like for Gleyber to rebound a bit. It was more frustrating watching Gary Sanchez than Gleyber. Gleyber was more, for me at least, it was more like, oh, like you just wanted him to do better, where Sanchez was just so frustrating to watch because you'd think he was turning a corner and then he would just fall off a cliff again. And I'm hoping that the fresh start in Minnesota might help, but I was seeing some tweets from Twins fans who were not very happy with his defense in yesterday's game. So, but I'm kind of hoping that maybe, at the plate, he'll turn things around. The defense, that's always probably going to be a problem for Gary Sanchez, but we'll see what happens there. But with Gleyber, he is still young. What is he, 24, 25? And there's a lot of time for him to, guys don't really go into their prime, really, unless you're like a superstar, but really 27, 26, 27, 28, those are your real prime. And he still has time to build upon everything that he's done, was it 2019 when he took the soul out of Gary Thorne's body by July? That was so funny. I did a whole segment playing Gary Thorne calling all of Gleyber Torres's home runs. And just laughing at him, the reaction of
Yeah.
him throughout the season, because he just was like, why are you even pitching to him? Just put four fingers up. What is the matter with you? Like, he lost his mind. Poor Gary Thorne. Yeah. Gleyber Torres stole his soul that season. But yeah, it'll be, he's one to watch. I was saying how pitching wise, the wild card for the Yankees, more than Luis Severino, because I'm still worried about the injury stuff with him, is Jordan Montgomery. Mainly because I said it yesterday. He had that month and a half stretch where he pitched really well, but the lineup did nothing for him, and he
Yeah.
got a bunch of no
Because
decisions.
this lineup is supposed to out-hit mistakes,
Yeah.
and then at one point last year, it, like, switched, and the pitching was really good, and the lineup couldn't hit water from a boat, and it was,
Yeah.
like, early in the season, too, and everybody was like, how did Gleyber Torres regress? Like, how did Gary Sanchez regress? Like, what is going on with the Yankees hitting? And then,
Yeah.
there was some regression to the mean, and they were able to out-hit some mistakes, but now because I'm not concerned about the lineup.
No.
It's a pretty deep lineup, you
Yeah.
know. I am still I'm still most interested to see defensively how things work out.
Right.
They should be very much improved,
Sure.
especially in the infield. They got better in the outfield last year with Joey Gallo. They should be improved this year defensively in the infield. They've got Donaldson, who's got a good arm from the corner, and they have a shortstop now, and Gary Sanchez or Gleyber Torres is pretty comfortable at second base and plays some pretty good defense at second base. And DJ LeMahieu's a good defender. Anthony Rizzo, it will save some runs at first base.
Sure.
He always does.
I read the lineup.
I'm curious to see how it all actually comes together, and if it all comes together, because defense was such a glaring weakness last year.
Yeah.
And the was thin too, like the bullpen's been great. This has been a good bullpen dating back to 2017. But the rotation's it's a little thin. It's a little thin still.
Just a little.
Yeah.
But now, I mentioned the lineup, and Gleyber is playing short tonight, and LeMahieu is playing second. Just so everyone knows. So that'll be interesting to watch. So maybe that isn't the opening. That might be the opening day lineup. They might stick him in shortstop, and then I don't know. Who knows? But we'll see what happens with that. I don't know what the Yankees are doing. What are they doing? They're already annoying me. It's March 30th, and I'm already annoyed by the Yankees and their lineup decisions. And it's not even a game that counts. What are you doing to me, Aaron Boone?
I can't wait to see how you react after a regular season loss. And I have to remind you that there are 160 something games.
Oh, no. See,
I don't know how many. I'm not going to speculate on how many playoff games they're going to play.
The thing about me is, because I've been watching this sport for so long, and I experienced 2004 as a fully formed adult, I practice Zen baseball. I'll be mad about a loss for 5 minutes, and then I forget about it. I don't, unless something really bad happens, and, like, if the loss is because Aaron Boone did something silly, then I'll talk about it, because it's my job. But I know when to reel it in, and I know when to spew it out.
Let this be a lesson to all of you fans. Do not let sports or fandom affect your mental health.
I used to do that. Yeah, I used to do that when I was younger. Don't do it.
The players are not your friends. Right. They're also not your enemies. The manager's definitely not your friends or your enemies either. Don't take it too seriously. It's great to have that community feeling of being a fan, and you root when the good times are good, and you take solace with one another when they're bad. But don't let it overwhelm you to a point where you are punching walls or yelling at beat writers on Twitter. Because as a writer, I don't make the lineup. I don't send guys from third home. That's not my job. Don't yell at me.
I haven't punched a wall, but I did break a mug once. I broke a
Okay,
TV
let's not break
remote
things.
and nearly broke my hand when Mike Messina was giving up home runs to the Red Sox in the 2003 ALCS. But,
Let's
that was a
practice having a
really,
level head this season, everyone.
yeah, that was a long time ago. I was in my 20s still, and, I've grown up a lot since then. So, Now, before we go, let's wish good health and good luck to Michael Kay, who tested positive for COVID. He said it feels just like a bad cold, but he said, after 2 years of avoiding it, I finally got it. So let's hope that he gets better soon and that, it is just like a bad cold and that it doesn't get any worse. But as far as I know, he's vaccinated, so he should be okay. So let's just send our best wishes to Michael Kay before we go. And for now, that's it for this episode of Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Abby and I would like to remind you that you can listen to the show in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else you get your podcasts. You can watch and subscribe to us on YouTube. Again, we just passed 950 subscribers. We're closer and closer to 1,000. And when we get there, we're going to give something to you. We still don't know what, though. And when you get into your car, you can tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On MLB. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues, both past and present, and it's free and available wherever you get podcasts. One more thing, if you could be so kind, please rate the podcast and spread the word about this podcast to your fellow Yankee fans. We would really appreciate it. So enjoy your Wednesday, and we will talk to you tomorrow.